Hey everybody, GPhunky Monkey here from GPhunk Outdoors. Today we're going to be hiking the Appalachian Trail up to Baker's Knob, and then we're going to be heading down into the Lehigh Gorge to hike the Prairie Grass Loop. Some of the topics that we're going to talk about today are knowing your limits, and not only your limits, but your partner's limits as well, whether that be your dog or your actual human partner. And also the importance of good footwear. So here we are at the Baker's Knob trailhead. We've got Hope here with us today. We're going to be hiking as far as we can down the Appalachian Trail, just headed northbound. And rough. One of the things I'm seeing a lot of on this trail here is a lot of graffiti. A lot of the rocks so far. Good old white trailblazer mark for the Appalachian Trail. So just off the side of the trail here, just noticed a little campsite. Got a little campground right there. Nice little tent spot in the background. Climbing the steep hill. One of the things I would have to say about hiking in weather conditions like this, we just had rain for the past 2 days. Right now it's pretty foggy out. The rocks are very, very slick. They have moss coming off of them, growing on them rather. It can create for some very slippery conditions. And one of the things that when you're hiking, you got to think about is one wrong step. You could twist, you could break your ankle, you could break your foot, you could tear a tendon. There's a lot of things that can go wrong if you don't have the proper type of footwear. But every time you take a step, it needs to be very carefully placed, especially in conditions like these. The type of shoes that I wear, they're the Ultra Lone Peaks. I love these shoes here. These don't really have the ankle support on them, but one of the things that I would say is if you're going to go with a shoe that doesn't offer ankle support, you should definitely train your ankles. So here we are. We're on top of the knob. We're probably not going to really be able to see much of a view, just because it's pretty far. This is just off the Appalachian Trail. You can't miss it. But you got this rock here that says the knob on it. This is how you know you've peaked it. So it does clear up a little bit out here. It's a good little thinking spot. We got a cloud moving in, so I'm gonna try to capture this view before I lose it. Here we are heading downhill on the opposite side of the knob. We're taking it very, very slow for this little one. I have to pick her up every now and again on some of the bigger rocks, but she's doing pretty good. She's taking it nice and easy too. All right, so Hope and I decided to turn around and head back down the way we came, back to the parking lot. The opposite side of the knob became very, very rocky. It got to a point where I started to worry a little bit about having to carry her all the way. 8 miles. I don't know if I could have done that with her, but I'm gonna have to come back to do this hike another time, maybe when it's a little drier out. I'm not gonna be able to bring the dog with me the next time, but we're gonna go down. We're gonna try to find another little trail that's a little less rockier, less inclines, less declines, and a little safer for her to travel on. All right, guys, we're in Walnutport, Pennsylvania, and we're on the Prairie Grass Trail Loop. It's about a 4.5 mile loop. So far, it seems like it's going to be a lot safer for the dog to hike on, but here we are, we're off. All right, so this trail's a little rocky. It's nowhere near as bad as the other trail that we were on. I feel a lot better about the dog being on this trail than her scrambling through all those other rocks. These are at least like little tiny pebbles that she can walk through. Be a lot better on her feet, and she shouldn't be breaking her ankles. So one of the important things that I want to talk about is knowing when to turn around and call it quits. Not only for yourself, but for whoever you're hiking with, whoever your partner is. And in my case today, my partner was Hope, my dog. You know, safety is completely paramount whenever you're doing things like hiking or whatever it is that you could be finding yourself doing. It's in our case, you know, we were hiking through some very steep rocks, big rocks, a lot of ankle breakers that could have not only hurt me, could definitely hurt the dog as well. I almost wonder how many people have broken their ankle in some of these sections of Pennsylvania, just daily hiking and even trying to through hike the entire Appalachian Trail. Knowing your limits as well as your partner's limits when it comes to the steepness of the hike, the length of the hike, fatigue limits, how much water you guys have between the 2 or 3 of you, and whether or not you should push on are some major factors to consider. Just recently I did the Triple Crown with my dad and brother, and there was a point where we had just hiked about 12 miles and we ran out of water about 2 miles before the parking lot, and we got some intel basically saying that there was a little water source, but the next 2 shelters weren't going to have any water. Well, we were trying to push on to those next 2 shelters, and thankfully at the parking lot we decided, you know, the water source was scarce. It's not guaranteed that there's going to be water at the shelter. We decided to call an Uber, head into town, grab a hotel for the night, get a nice steak dinner, get a lot of water in us, good night's sleep. Woke up, had some Cracker Barrel. The very next day, we hiked about 6 miles to get to our campground where we camped overnight. And there was a good water source at that campground, which was really nice. We did learn at the 2 campgrounds that we were told didn't really have water. There was actually water. We checked them out the next day, and it turned out, yep, there was water. We would have survived, but nighttime was right around the corner. We had probably about 30 minutes till it was dark, and we were about a mile and a half from those campgrounds, you know, when we decided that we should just call it quits for the night. It was tough, but you know, sometimes you gotta listen to those people that you're hiking with. You gotta really take into consideration them as well as yourself when making decisions like that. And ultimately, I think it was an awesome decision that we made. One, because we got steak that night, even though we packed in some steak. A little bit more about fatigue and knowing your limits and your partner's limits. A lot of that is going to come down to just how far you're hiking. You know, the amount of effort that you're putting into hiking, hills, uphills, downhills, your terrain that you're hiking on, and really how much water and nutrients, being food, that you're putting into your body. It's a very important factor, making sure that you drink enough water. If you have the means of researching your hike and locating your water sources, you can make sure that you're drinking about 1/4 of a liter of water almost, I don't know, every hour or so. You know, that's a pretty good, safe amount of water to drink, depending on the amount of effort that you're actually putting into your hike. That can help reduce your chances of being fatigued as well. You know, some of the symptoms of fatigue, you know, you might be a little lethargic, you're going to be tired, you might be thirsty. A lot of the big ones is just going to be, you know, making mistakes, simple mistakes, tripping over rocks, tripping over roots, finding yourself sliding around, not making smart choices on the trail when it comes to descending or ascending hills and cliffs and stuff. Those are all signs that you should watch out for when it comes to yourself, as well as the partner that you are hiking with. When you begin to see these symptoms in not only yourself but your partner as well, you ought to stop for a second and just kind of reevaluate your situation and see if it's worth keeping on going. Maybe it's worth stopping, you know, grabbing a drink of water, maybe putting some food in your body, energy bars or something, and you know, just trying to bring basically the morale back up when it comes to hiking. Also, taking frequent breaks is pretty crucial. For about every hour of hiking, I will typically take about a 10-minute break. Things that you can do to kind of help out your feet, especially if you're backpacking. You know, if you're taking a 10-minute break, drop your pack off your back, sit down, take your shoes off, pull the soles out of your shoes, let those dry for 10 minutes, and take your socks off. You know, that's gonna help out tremendously. It helps get the funk off your feet, helps your feet dry out, allows your socks to dry a little bit. Every little bit helps. And that will help reduce a whole lot of problems. But for every hour of hiking, take a 10-minute break. That's your chance to make sure that you're drinking water too. And make sure you drink water and plan out your water stops. And every time you hit a water stop, try to chug a bottle of water if you can. Helps keep you hydrated. Chug a bottle of water, filter new water, fill it back up. If you still feel thirsty, chug a whole nother bottle of water. The more water you put into your body, the less chance of being fatigued you are. If you find yourself being dehydrated, you're not going to be able to rehydrate yourself in 10 minutes. That's going to take hours for you to start feeling better after you start drinking a ton of water. Just to talk a little bit about foot conditioning and getting your ankles ready for big hikes, rocky hikes, where you may not have good footwear or ankle support, or you might have good footwear and ankle support, but some of the exercises that you can do to help out with strengthening your ankles would, if you've got a step or a rock by your house, or any type of little ledge that you can step on, you want to try to get your just behind your toes on that ledge where your heels are kind of hanging off, and you know, brace your arms off to the side, maybe hold on to the handholds or the walls. What you want to do is just slowly lower yourself and raise yourself. Lower yourself, raise yourself. This is one way that you can strengthen your feet and your ankles and all the muscles and ligaments around that area. You can also do that same exercise just standing still in place on flat ground. Also, if you notice down here, I don't know if you can see my foot, but what you can do is just go like that, just to kind of work your ankles. And that helps out tremendously, especially if you're coming off of an ankle injury of some sort. That's one of the things that they used to have us do in football to strengthen our ankles after injuries. It's super important to make sure that you continue hiking, being very aware of where you step and how you step, because that can be a severe game changer for you. I've heard too many stories of people falling on a rock and breaking feet, breaking ankles. It's no bueno, not good. The dog just went zooming by. But those are just a few tips and tricks that I can give you to strengthen your ankles. Walking on an incline on a treadmill, that helps, but really that only makes you go one way. Oh, come on. That really only helps in one direction with your ankles. You want to try to challenge them, and it takes time. It's not easy to build up those muscles and ligaments down there. The only real way you could do it is by walking on difficult terrain, rocks, and just taking it easy at first and slowly building your way up. Some good advice on some footwear. You want to find something that is extremely comfortable on the bottoms of your feet for your soles. I know you don't really get a lot of time to really step into a shoe and try it on when you're actually going to the store, but if you're trying on a shoe, I would suggest walking around the store. Just do a few laps around the store, see how it feels on your feet. If it hurts your feet at first right away, that might not be the shoe for you. If there is pressure being put on the bottom of your foot, you will find that your feet over time will take the shape and form to whatever sole that you decide to put on your feet and walk with for long periods of time. That might be extremely uncomfortable, and that might lead to knee, hip, back pains, ankle pains, foot pains, and that's not something that you're going to want, especially when you're doing some long hiking. You want to find something that's comfortable for you. These Ultras that I mentioned earlier, I love these things. They're super comfortable. They're probably one of the most comfortable pairs of shoes that I've ever worn. Second to that, I really like the Merrell brand. Ultra is a little pricier, but it's a shoe that's well worth it. Just know when you go on long hikes, your feet tend to swell about a size or two. Now, if you're just going for a day hike, you may not experience that, but if you're hiking day on end, yeah, you better expect that to happen. The Ultras are really good because there's a big box in the front of it for your toes, and it leaves you room if your feet decide to actually swell. Also, bear in mind, one of the newest trends are lightweight trail shoes. To me, it's an important factor, especially with backpacking. If you're going on a long trip, the last thing you're going to want is an extremely heavy shoe. I find that the shoes that have the large ankle supports, the reinforced materials, and all of the things that they tried to scare you with in the store, thinking worst case scenario, your ankle's going to break, we need to make sure that snakes can't bite through your shoes, rocks can't cut through your shoes. You got to keep in mind when you go to the stores, and a lot of what these brand companies do, they try to play on your fears when it comes to the outdoors. Find yourself a nice light pair of shoes. Each one of my shoes weighs probably around 10 to 11 ounces, 16 ounces being 1 pound. When you start buying those big, bulky brand shoes, such as Merrell, for example, and they have the large ankle supports, you tend to almost put over a pound per foot. Now, I found myself in more situations where, I was more prone to twisting my ankles and making clumsy mistakes by having heavier shoes on my feet. I did not enjoy when I got tired and fatigued trying to fight through and, trying to fight the clumsy little mistakes that I was making, you know, towards the end of the day when I was starting to reach camp. But this previous hike, I started getting into the lightweight brand shoes. They make a world of a difference. I feel like I was able to go longer. They feel better on my feet. I realized the importance of making sure that if you're gonna have one without ankle support, the importance of making sure that your ankles are strong and exercising your ankles for that matter. Because you can be a little more prone to injury when you go that route. But you know, all in all, I think it's worth it. You just got to be a little more mindful, like I said of earlier, with every single step that you take. That way you don't injure yourself.
you enjoyed watching this video today, smash that like button down at the bottom of your screen and stay tuned for more videos by GPhunk Outdoors. Thank you again for watching, and leave a comment down in the section below.